Hello there, Algebra 1, and welcome to Lesson 1.1, the first lesson in our adventure together. So let's start by going through some vocabulary for 1.1, evaluate expressions. Our goal, evaluate expressions and use exponents. Pretty simple. Make sure you do have a graphing calculator or a calculator of any kind is fine for this lesson. And let's go on in. So a variable is a letter or some type of symbol that represents a number. So it's a letter, typically X, Y, or Z, and it represents a number. That represents a number or numbers. Represents a number. The key thing with variables is that they can represent many numbers, whereas like 5, the number 5 is just 5. A variable can be anything. An algebraic expression, also known as a variable expression, is just a combination of a number with a variable. So a number, and it can be plus, minus, multiplication, division, exponents. A number, an operation, and a variable, or a series of them. For example, something like 3 plus x would be an algebraic expression. Evaluating an expression is simply putting in a value for the variable. Putting in or substituting a value for a variable. And we'll see some examples of this coming up. A power, basically, what we have is a variable, it's repeated multiplication. For example, 5 times 5 times 5 is the same thing as 5 to the third power because there are 3 of them. And within this power, we have 2 things. We have 5, which we would call the base, and 3, which we would call the exponent. So base is what's being multiplied. How many times is the exponent? So when you have that vocab down, let's get into some algebraic expressions. So 7t means 7 times t, or the operation is multiplication. Okay? So when you're going through these and you hear me say things like, this is 7t, 7 times t. So multiplication and times. X over 20, it means x divided by 20. That's one way to think of it. Y minus 8, y minus 8, that's subtraction. And then we have 12 plus a, or 12 plus a, which is addition. So get used to those different types of terms. Pretty straightforward. Evaluate algebraic expressions. Here's where it gets tricky. To evaluate an expression, substitute a number for the variable, then perform the operations and simplify. That's the key. So when we have this here, 11 times n, what we're doing is we're evaluating for n is equal to 4. So n, we are replacing with 4, and we have 11 times 4, which in your calculator, or maybe even in your head, is going to be 44. Okay, so we substitute 4 for n, and then simplify. When you simplify, that means to do the operation. 12 over n. Again, we're substituting 4 in for n. 12 divided by 4, you type that in your calculator, is simply 4. So the answer is 4. If I don't fill in every single blank over here, that's okay. I'm just kind of guiding you through. For letter C here, substitute. So once again, we're putting 4 in. 4 minus 3 is 1. And that is the answer. So evaluating just means plug a number in. Go ahead. If you want to pause the video and try these real quick, that would be a great thing to do. Evaluate the expression when y is equal to 8. So go ahead, pause, try those out. I will go through them here anyway. Okay, so those are the answers there. How did you do? Remember, you are substituting 8 in for y in all of these different cases. And then you do the operations. If you didn't do so hot on those, keep watching. Maybe try out some extra in the practice. Definitely reach out to me if you're not sure. Power models. Read and write powers. Okay, so what this says here, 12 and this little mini 1 means 12 to the first power. I'm going to show you a little bit here. Basically, it's just 12 once. 12, the power means repeated multiplication. 2 to the third, 2 to the third power, represents 2 times 2 times 2. Okay? 3 instances of 2 with multiplication. Okay? 1/4 to the second power, also known as squared. So to the second power. When it's second power, we can think of that as squared. Second and squared are the same thing. Basically what that means is the 1/4, notice the parentheses, times another 1/4. Parentheses are important. You need those parentheses there. A to the 4th just means A times A times A times A 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Checkpoint, write the power in words and as a product. You can just write it as a product if you're okay with that. Okay, just go ahead, write it as a product. This is 7 times 7. Again, pause and try them out, and then come back to them. And those are the answers. So once again, see how you did. Evaluate powers. Here's where it gets a little tricky. So now we are taking evaluation and using that with powers. So evaluate, which means we're substituting 3 in for y, is this here. It's 3 to the third, not 3 times 3. Remember, this is 3 times 3 times 3. If you do that in your calculator, that's 27. A to the 5th, when y is equal to, or actually letter B here. So we're substituting when a is 1.2. So 1.2 to the 5th is 1.2 times 1.2, 3 more times. And here's a little calculator shortcut. So if you want to do this in the calculator, we're going to type in 1.2. I invite you to do this with me. caret, which is right, if you see where my little cursor is, right above division, caret, and that will get your cursor up there to the fifth, and you hit enter, you should get that number there. So 1.2 to the fifth is the same thing as 2.488. You can round to whatever you'd like, really, and that's okay. Okay, last little mini checkpoint here. Try these out. Again, I invite you to pause, try them, see how you do. T squared when t is equal to 3. So that's 3 squared, okay, which is 3 times 3, which is 9. 1/2 to the fifth, using the calculator trick, is 3.2 e to the negative 4. That's okay if you write it like that. We'll get into scientific notation later. Sorry, that should be 1/2. Whoops. 1/2. That's why it was a little different. 0.03125. And next to the third one, it's equal to 4. 4 to the third is that there. So 64. Okay, great job. So guys, make sure you look at the 1.1 homework. I believe you should just do the odds. That's again on Schoology. And make sure then later you check your answers and you submit your notes and